What's up?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, we're on.
Hey, everybody. We're Thursday night live on the Blue Jeans app here on the Big Buck Registry. And tonight we have a special guest joining us, Zack Doyle with the RackPacker. Jay Scott, myself, Dusty Phillips are going to spend a half hour, 45 minutes with Zack discussing the RackPacker and discussing what they got going on in North Carolina as far as whitetail season. Zack, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, guys. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. Very excited to to share some more information about the RackPacker with everybody, and also, of course, just hang out and talk hunting.
Absolutely. It's always good to hear from you guys. Zack and his dad, Keith Doyle, are the owners of the RackPacker, and it's one piece of arson you should have in your hunting arson, that's for sure. Zack, how's things going as far as whitetail hunt in North Carolina this year?
Well, the South is definitely a different ball game than the North. Growing up in Pennsylvania and hunting West for a lot of my life, it really humbles you when you move to the South and try to find big deer here and kill big deer here, especially with a bow. It's a whole different world. It's in my opinion, having hunted a bunch of different states and having taken a lot of big bucks in a lot of states. Um, Personally, North Carolina is the hardest state that I've ever hunted, and I spend more time hunting here than I do in any other state, and it's a really really difficult state to hunt and kill big deer regularly.
Right,
Not too many guys do it. It's really tough.
right on. Can you give us like the top three reasons why it makes it tougher?
Well, really, I attribute it to a couple different things. One, we have a really really long gun season. Our gun season runs from like the beginning of November. Muzzleloader season comes in the middle of October, and we don't have a break in firearm season until January the 1st. So it's a super, super long gun season. The deer are heavily, heavily pressured, and you just don't get a whole lot of daylight movement. Your best chance of getting on a big deer is early on. The first couple weeks of September, when the bucks are just coming out of velvet. After that, things really change very quickly. The second reason I would say is really because our rut here is not as defined as it is in the north. In the north, a lot of times you have 2 or 3 good weeks of hunting the rut. Maybe you get a second wind, get a second chance, late in November or beginning of December in the Midwest. Here, our rut can range from the end of October all the way through February. And a lot of times it's a trickle rut. We're still seeing fresh scrapes blowing up in the woods right now. We just had a big fresh scrape blow up 2 days ago. Um, Last season, I had a buck dogging a doe the first week of February.
No
So,
kidding.
it's very, very different here. Um, and again, it's just hit or miss, right? You sometimes get lucky and see some chasing activity, and then it can be weeks, and you don't see anything, any signs of rut activity at all for weeks. Um, we're starting to see some of the bucks bunch up in little bachelor groups now already again, but 2 or 3 days ago I saw bucks chasing does. So it's just very, very unusual from a rut standpoint. The other difficulty is food sources here. We stay green very, very long. A lot of the low growing, shrubbery stays green nearly year round. So the deer are always have something green to eat. Our acorn production tends to be very good. We have, of course, a lot of row crops. Um, and everybody here baits. Baiting is legal in the state of North Carolina, so everybody baits. As soon as gun season rolls around, guys are dumping hundreds of pounds of corn all over the place. The deer just don't have to move a whole lot to find corn or to find food in general. Um, they really can stay in some of these heavily grown over areas, old clear cuts and things like that, and they just don't have to move a whole lot. So the bigger bucks stay very nocturnal. They're not they're not having to move for food. They chase does sporadically, and they're so pressured that it's a really tough time down here. Even with a rifle, it's tough hunting in the state of North Carolina. That's for sure. And some of the guys out east have it even harder with guys running dogs and things like that. So it's a very old fashioned state. But the hunting here is very, very difficult.
It sounds like it. Answer a quick question. Tony McGuire asked if we're going to demonstrate your product. And Tony, absolutely. Zach's going to walk us through the RackPacker system right there. He's got one in his hands, and we look forward to showing everybody what the RackPacker, how it folds, how it harnesses up, how it carries anything from a tree stand to a dead deer or a couple bags of corn. I mean, I've hauled corn out to the field with mine. There's all different. I know Jay's hauled a few rocks around his yard with his.
Yeah.
Just putting it through the test, you know.
Tell you that story in a second. The RackPacker, it turns out, Zach, makes an excellent rock carrier too. I was building a rock garden for my wife, and I'd find rocks out as I was hunting, and I had no other real means to go into the woods, pull them back out, except by RackPacker extraction method. The four-wheelers were not accessible, and it turned what would have been an impossible job into something fairly easy because of the design of the RackPacker. So I appreciate that, and my wife also thanks you.
I mean, it's funny. We get pictures all the time of folks that use it for what we consider non-traditional things, non-hunting things, right? Like bringing rocks out. I've got folks that have sent me pictures of cases of beer, right, on the RackPacker. A gentleman uses it to get an old washing machine up the steps out of his basement, had it strapped to the RackPacker. So, yeah, I mean, we've got folks that use them for everything from, feeding their goats and their livestock, big bags of feed, to mineral blocks, to tree stands, you name it. We've got folks that use it for all kinds of things. It really is obviously very versatile. It goes beyond hunting, but that's really what we designed it for.
Nice.
Right on. Real quick, Zach, we're going to plug in as we go. People that's hopping on social media, and Tony McGuire says he's in Oklahoma and he's never heard of it or seen it. And the Tony, that's why we do these Thursday night lives. We're trying to bring different products to different areas of the world, and it's a way for us to reach out and get this not necessarily advertised, but get it out into hands of hunters all over the world, because it's something that Jay and myself, and very fortunate enough to meet Zach and his dad Keith, and be able to test out the RackPacker and play with one, and we got them at our houses to utilize for ourselves, and it's something that very beneficial, and it definitely works for carrying out your deer. And I tell you what, that somewhere over time it's going to save somebody from a heart attack, and that's no kidding. A lot of older gentlemen that struggle to drag a deer out. This thing here is priceless to me. I'm 36 and I love it. But Billy Dahl, what's going on, man? Glad to see you joining us. Yeah, Joe Gibson says that's a nice bone collection, Zach, in the background. I got to agree to that. Tell us a little bit about them real quick.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, there's a bunch more that you can't see. There's about a dozen more to the right of me here. It's just a lifetime of an obsession, really. Ever since I picked up a gun and went on my first deer hunt at age 10, it has become an obsession. My wife will tell you for sure. I spend a lot of time in the woods. This is a culmination of now. This year it'll be 20 years of hunting, 17 years of bow hunting. Most of what you see on the wall is archery kills from states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin. There's a couple black-tailed deer in here from California. Now I really truly enjoy, obviously, bow hunting. That's really my passion. And public land bow hunting. We spend a lot of time hunting public land in the state of Ohio. And, literally we put thousands of hours of time in the woods every year. And this is kind of what it turns into, but it has never run dry. It has never, the passion has never left. It's still an obsession. I still get shook up every time I see a big deer, and it's really a blessing, if you will. I've been really blessed to be able to enjoy my passion and pursue my passion, and have a family that supports it. I'm a first-time father now. I have a 7-month-old little baby girl. And so, to be able to pass that on and pass this on to the next generation is now also, of course, a huge part of my life.
Absolutely. So, Zach, let's get into a little bit about the RackPacker. You want to kind of run us through how that all came about and demonstrate what you got there in your hand. That's the RackPacker.
Before we just do that, Zach, I just want to tell everybody that if you wanted to listen to the podcast that we did with you, Zach, that was back in 2014, so it's been several years, but a lot of it's still very relevant. It's episode 47, so you got to go back through our archives, go find it on Spotify, find it on iTunes, but you can go find that episode we did. And I recognize, and I think we all recognize, that the podcast is awesome to really describe in detail what you're all about and what you're handling there, but it doesn't handle video, and you can't do a show and tell. So that's why we asked you to come on the show, so we can see what this thing looks like and you can demonstrate it. That's the power of video. So thank you for coming on. But yeah, episode 47, go back and you can find it, and you can find the original episode that we did. Sorry, Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. So we actually came up with this idea, actually, that very first deer hunt that I referenced nearly 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years next year. That's when we came up with this idea. I was 10 years old at the time. I was studying the Native Americans in school and shot my first deer. Watched my dad, who was at the time overweight and out of shape and everything else, try to drag this deer out of the woods. And we kind of came together and thought there just has to be a better way. Again, I was studying the Native Americans at the time, and they had an invention or a contraption, if you will, called the travois, which was essentially just two pieces of wood in a V-shaped, right, lashed together with a support in the middle that they would use to bring game out of the woods, wounded warriors, things like that, out of the field. That's what they used the travois for. We thought, what a great idea. Why not add a wheel to it, right? We've got modern materials now. We have the ability to make something very strong and very lightweight. Let's add a wheel, a single wheel. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, why we chose a single wheel, why we chose a small wheel. But that's really where the idea came from, and it kind of blossomed from there. We had a few made for ourselves for personal use. Back then, the design was a little bit different. And after about 10 years or 15 years, we revisited the idea and said, there's a need for something like this in the hunting market. There's a ton of big, heavy deer carts out there that look like refrigerator trucks that have big bicycle tires on them that really aren't truly practical to take in the woods with you. Or public hunting, public land, guys that want to hunt really far from the truck, right? Like we do in Ohio. Sometimes we're 2 and even 3 miles from the truck. It's just not feasible to carry stands and carry gear and backpacks and bows and, a deer cart all in with you at one time. So really we designed a RackPacker with that in mind, that people need something that's convenient to use, that's going to be lightweight, portable, but also that's super, super strong. So the RackPacker itself is all steel. It weighs only 16 pounds. It is a bifold design. So right now you see it in its folded state. It is designed to be worn on your back like a backpack. Sorry, some of my straps are coming loose here, but again, it's designed to be worn on your back like a backpack. And to wear it like a backpack, it has actual backpack straps on it that go over your shoulders. The RackPacker is only 4 inches thick. The wheel's 6 inches thick. So it fits on your back really, really conveniently. Can be worn actually in the woods with you. Some things that we like to do are things like flip down this butt plate that's actually for the deer. I'm not sure how well you can see that.
Yeah, we got it good.
But
yep, I can see it.
I'll take my backpack and actually throw my backpack straps over this and carry my backpack in on the back of the RackPacker. So I can kind of carry everything in the woods all at one time. It leaves me hands-free, right, to shoot or draw my bow as I'm walking in if I were to happen to walk into something on the walk into the woods, which happens fairly frequently, especially if you're rifle hunting. You're walking in the afternoon. The other nice thing, again, this is all steel construction. We have a lifetime warranty on all of the parts. If you ever break anything, we'll replace it, no questions asked. It is absolutely 100% solid. If you go to our website, therackpacker.com, you can see some videos. We have them on YouTube as well of guys taking these things over logs that are waist high, with deer on them, and it's slamming into the ground, and nobody ever has any issues with durability. So the RackPacker itself actually then unfolds. And what you get is the travois that we talked about earlier, again with a single wheel on the bottom. The butt plate flips up, and at this point, the straps that were used to sort of hold it in its closed position, we're going to use those to secure our deer or bear or bags of corn or rocks, right?
Right.
So we used all metal buckles for this. Again, very, very durable, big, thick, heavy-duty straps. It's going to help keep everything secure. So you've got one for the back legs. There's also, of course, one for the front legs, okay, up on the top side. And then we use the shoulder straps that we used for our backpack straps. Those are used then to secure the head down. So again, you've got multiple sets of straps to sort of secure your load. Everything ties down nice and tight. You don't get weight shifting around. You don't get the deer trying to roll over and flip over. Because of that, we've solved some of the issues that guys run into with sort of more traditional style carts. With these big two-wheel game carts, you get on uneven ground or on a side hill or go over sort of an uneven log. The problem with two-wheel carts is they want to flip right over, right? They've got big, tall, weak wheels. A lot of guys have the wheels fall off or get stuff all caught in the spokes of these wheels. We designed this, again, with a very, very small wheel. What that allows us to do is it allows us to keep the load very, very close to the ground and creates a lot of stability. The other nice thing is this is designed to be pulled behind you. So as you're pulling it behind you, as long as your shoulders are level with the ground, the RackPacker is level. So when we walk on a side hill, if we had a two-wheel cart, the cart would want to be, leaning over to the side, downhill, right? With this, we can always be level. Because when we walk on the sides of hills, obviously our shoulders aren't all tipped over. You really are in 100% control of the load at all times. Since that podcast that we did back in 2004, we've made a few additions, made a few changes. One of the additions that we've made, and it makes a huge, huge difference, is the addition of a shoulder harness. We have a shoulder harness that attaches to each handle, one on each side, and runs over your shoulders and actually takes all the load off of your hands. So when you're pulling the weight, you can pull all of the weight that's loaded on the RackPacker with your body, okay? We were having our forearms getting tired and our hands getting tired, so we thought, why not throw a strap over our neck, over our back, take all the load off. You can pull the 100% of the load with your legs and just steer with your hands.
That's smart. I've seen the movers. They'll do that, right? If you hire movers, they'll do the same thing. Strap thing, move anything. Chest coolers or refrigerators do the same thing.
Yeah, and you'll see that a lot. Again, in those industries, guys that want to brace and be able to lift with their backs and lift with their their legs versus trying to hold everything with their forearms or the weight to slip out of your hand. So again, we really set out to try to eliminate a lot of the issues that you see with the big, heavy, traditional two-wheel carts. From being portable to the strength, again, it's 100% steel. This wheel is rated for over 1,000 pounds. That's another thing that we've beefed up over the last few years is we've beefed up this wheel. Again, if we were to use a big, large wheel, we'd have a lot of trouble going up and over obstacles, right? Because you have to raise that load with the big wheel. You also run into things like the load wanting to tip over. Um, we designed the rack packer so that if you can walk through something, it will follow behind you. So it doesn't matter whether it's mud or snow or up a creek or rocks or over logs, you name it. If you can cross over it physically with your body and pull the rack packer behind you, it will follow you. And again, you can see some of the torture testing that we've put it through on our website. We've got sort of a 2 or 3 minute highlight reel on there. A lot of it is user submitted footage over the last few years of guys that are absolutely torturing this thing, going over huge logs and rocks and snow, bears, deer, you name it, through waist deep water, right? We've done it all with the rack packer. A lot of things that you'll never ever see a two-wheeled cart do.
Right. We have some questions coming in. Do you want to handle some questions, Dusty?
Yeah, Scott Thomas asked, any plans of to make them out of aircraft aluminum or possibly another model in the future?
So we looked into aircraft aluminum in the beginning. Actually, our very first model, the one we had made 20 years ago, was aircraft aluminum. The problem is the cost. To go to something like aircraft aluminum, we're doubling, if not tripling, the cost of the unit itself. It's a very expensive material when compared to steel, and just doesn't have the same integrity on the welds. So aluminum welds just don't have the same strength as steel welds do. They take a lot more time. Again, it drives the cost of the product up. We wanted to bring something to the market that was affordable for everybody, competitive, in the market. And at 16 pounds, we're actually only looking at like a 3 to 4 pound weight savings over steel. The advantages for the added cost just weren't there for us. But it is something that we looked into. The steel manufacturing process is just much more smooth.
There's
Jeremy Knight.
Go ahead, Dusty.
Jeremy Knight asked if you could strap a hang-on tree stand or climbing tree stand to that.
Yes, so that's another thing that if you take a look at our videos, you'll see some of that in our videos. We use it all the time for our hang-on stands and a set of sticks, 2 stands, 2 sets of sticks. We have had 2 summit climbers, 2 bows, and 2 backpacks on a single rack packer. You'll see some of that in that, like I said, in that highlight reel. Again, we use it for all kinds of different stuff. I've got guys that strap sections of ladder stands to it. If they've got a road wide enough that they can walk down, they'll strap sections of ladder stands to it sideways. But yes, you literally, if you can strap anything to this. If it's small enough that you can strap it to it and get it through the woods, you can strap it to it. We use it for tree stands all the time, especially when we're hunting public land. A lot of times we'll strap a summit stand, a bow, and a backpack all to it and pull everything in the woods instead of trying to carry everything in.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
I'm going to see if I can pull up and share a screen I'm going to show a video. People have been asking to see a video of this thing in action. So
absolutely.
I'm going to try to pull up my screen and show you this thing actually doing what it's designed to do. And it does it really well because I've pulled deer on this thing and rocks, and it does a great job. Zach, what video do you think I should pull up here from the website? Any suggestions?
There's one, I believe it's on the home page of the website, the very first page.
Yep. And is it okay, I think this is it here. The clip art is pulling a deer over a log. Is that the one?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Let me share my screen so everybody can see what we're talking about in action. Okay. So you can get the idea of what's going on there and how that works. But it pulls all your gear in. It pulls the deer out and does a great job doing it. You guys are not a sponsor of the show. We've used them in the field. I've used them. Dusty's used them, and it just makes my job easier. And you could see in that video how people were using them to bring gear in and out. And we, you know as well as anybody, Zach, bow hunting requires a lot of gear. You got to get up and down the tree, and a lot of times you're going in for one stand and coming back out. So having something like this, although it adds overall weight to the entire poundage of what you're bringing in there, makes bringing all of it in a lot easier.
Yeah, and even if you don't decide to bring everything on it, again, it's this big, right? It almost fits in a pizza box. It's a very, very compact unit. It actually fits underneath the back seat of my truck. We've got guys that leave them in the woods all season long. Typically, when I'm hunting public land, I'll take it in the woods with me the first trip and leave it in the woods for the entire week. Again, it's not something that you have to worry about it breaking or withering away to nothing. It's a solid steel powder coated unit. It's as tough and as durable as they come.
Gotcha. Dusty, you still there? I'm trying to pick his feedback up. He may have dropped off. Let's see if he comes back. Let me just see if I can pull a couple more questions off of the feed here, Zach.
Sure.
I noticed in one of those videos, and that was a fairly early video, or some of it was, where you didn't have the neck strap, but that neck strap, and you can see, that does put a lot of weight and torque on your arms. That neck strap changes everything.
Yes, it truly does. That's a lot of those videos were shot before we came out with the neck strap, and it really does make a world of a difference. Again, our biggest issue is, our forearms. Our forearms were getting tired, and your hands get tired and things like that. That's gone now. It's really just, all the weight's on your body.
Yep. Billy Daw asks if it will mount to a wheelchair. And I know right now, I think that it doesn't have any connections to mount to another device except you. But Billy's in North Carolina. You're in North Carolina. Maybe we could connect you both and you can figure out some kind of a system that you can do that with.
Yeah. So one thing that we have had some guys do, even with bikes and things like that, is, and I'm going to try to bring this fairly close to the camera. There are tabs, and I'm not sure if you can see them. There are little tabs right here. That's where the shoulder harness goes. These little tabs can be used to go over something like a ratchet strap or some kind of strap that's run across the back of a four-wheeler, or again, we've had guys build little contraptions to hook those little hooks onto the back of a bicycle. So I'm sure that something could be done as long as the wheelchair is wide enough. You could run a strap tight across the back of it, hook this right over the ratchet strap, and it'll pull right behind it.
Gotcha.
It's actually something we do with our four-wheelers. There's a lot of areas we can't get our four-wheelers into to get a deer, even if we only have to go 200 yards, right? We'll put the deer on the RackPacker, bring it out to the four-wheeler trail, flip this right on the back of the four-wheeler, and ride out of the woods.
Gotcha. Zach, what are the other improvements you've made since the show we did in 2014? I know the shoulder strap's one of them. That's a different tire, because I remember you sent us a prototype and it had a different wheel on it. It looks like you changed the wheel. What was the change for?
Yeah, so a couple different things we did. One, the forks that the wheel's connected to, we lengthened those. We were running into some issues with some debris getting caught between the wheel and the frame. So we lengthened the forks. It just created a little bit of a better angle. And so we're not running into those issues anymore. We also changed the wheel. The wheel is now a heavier duty wheel. It's a wider wheel as well. So again, it gives a little bit more strength, more stability. It's less likely to sink into mud and things like that. But again, we want to make it bulletproof as well. So it's a solid wheel. There is not a tire or anything. Obviously, you can't call AAA when you're in the woods, right? So
right.
It's a solid wheel. Again, you will not break it. We have had over 500 pounds on the unit itself, and even under a 500-pound load, which a fully grown man can barely pick up, it took two of us. Um, the frame doesn't even begin to flex,
Yep.
and actually the wheel is rated for double that.
I have managed to break your device in my rock excavation, and it's not made for that, just so you know. But I had about a 400-pound rock. I mean, and it was a dense rock, and it only could go on the platform there, and that platform is not rated to 400 pounds straight up and down. But
That's actually another thing that we changed just this year. What is the platform itself?
yeah,
The platform used to have a hole cut through the middle to try to save a few ounces of weight.
yep,
We now have a solid platform, and it's actually reinforced a couple times with some reinforcements in the middle so that the platform doesn't bend.
gotcha. Well, the good news is that I was able to fix it very simply. Like I just had to reflex it, and it snapped back into place, and it's totally fine and works perfectly well extracting animals out of the woods or bringing your gear in and out. You wouldn't even come close to that, I would think. I mean, but if you strapped a deer and covered the entire distance from top to bottom, the weight's more distributed, you wouldn't break it. Just when it's all down at the bottom, that it gets a little intense. But it still worked. It still worked.
We've had a few guys that have done some really big bears, pushing 400 pounds, and some really big whitetails as well. Some big Kansas whitetails that were pushing 300 on the hoof, and no issues. We have had some guys have to double team, one guy on each handle, simply because they're having to lift that much weight.
Now, I mean, we have some people checking this out right now, and certainly the visual that we're doing here helps out a lot compared to doing the podcast. We can describe it till we're blue in the face, but a video is worth thousands of words. If people wanted to learn more, what's the website?
So the website is www.therackpacker.com. So
Okay.
RackPacker, therackpacker.com. We're also on Facebook. Our page is just called The RackPacker. You can check us out there. We've got a lot of videos there. We're always sharing pictures. We've got a lot of folks that send us pictures from the field, send us little short videos from the field. Again, this isn't stuff that we're making up. It's not stuff that we're out there shooting in the woods ourselves. It's our customers, folks who actually own RackPackers and use these every day. We post a lot of testimonials and things like that as well. They send us messages, and so we like to share those with our followers. Also recognize success.
Right. Gotcha. What's the warranty on the product?
Again, it is a lifetime warranty. Again, if you break anything on this, we will replace it. No questions asked. We've got folks every now and then that either, maybe lose a buckle or break a buckle, or one of these rubber grips comes off, or, things happen, right? It's no questions asked. We take care of them right away. Again, we're a small family-owned company. The phone number on the website is my cell phone. So if you have questions, when you call, it's me that answers the phone. It's me that you talk to. If you send us an email, same thing. It's not some computer system or a customer service person. It's just us. We do the best we possibly can to take care of our customers as long as we possibly can. We are also running a promotion right now on our website. You can also see it on our Facebook page. If you use the coupon code HUNT2018, HUNT 2018, it's free shipping. Okay. So normally these are $23 to ship. It's going to save you $23. Again, it's HUNT 2018, and that's going to get you free shipping.
Nice. Very good. And you mentioned that you're keeping the cost low with the steel instead of the aircraft aluminum. What's the entry point?
So the cost is $149.
Okay. Seems reasonable to me. The haul my gear in and out, that's great.
Yeah. Especially for something that's going to last you your entire life.
Right. If the people that are watching the feed right now, if you have any other questions for Zack before we wrap up, just put them in the comments below, and we'll answer them as we get to them. Zach, I do have a question about the big deer that's right above your head that is above the other ones. Can you tell us the story on that one? Be to your right.
This one?
The other side. That one right there, yeah. What's the story behind that buck?
Story behind this deer is, believe it or not, that's actually my first archery killed whitetail.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's the first buck that I ever killed. I killed it in Buffalo County, Wisconsin when I was 13. He scores 151 inches and some change. I can't remember exactly the change. We actually had the deer aged at 9.5 years old.
Wow.
His base measurements, the mass measurements of his bases are just shy of 9 inches on both sides. Just an absolute massive old brute. Again, it was definitely a tough one to top, and a great way to get started. But believe it or not, the first shot at that deer I missed, and I thought I had hit him. He ran out into the field, and he just stood there and looked around, and I'm waiting for him to fall over, and he just turned and walked right back in again. There were still some does hanging out, and he turned and walked right back to me, and made the second shot count. So a little bit of a story to go with that one too. Yeah, definitely one that I'll always remember.
Very cool. Dusty is back with us. He had a little technical problem there. Dusty, did you see any other questions coming in on the Facebook feed?
One that Keith asked there is, once you get a deer on that, Zach, how is it to get a deer in the back of the truck on the RackPacker?
So you actually, it's really simple. There's a couple different options. One, you can keep something like a 2x6 or a 2x8 in the bed of your truck, just a short length of it, 4 or 5 feet. Run it from the bed of your truck to the ground, and then you can just run this reverse, right? Push it in front of you, right up into the bed of the truck. Second option is you can do this on the ground, pick the wheel end up, set it on the tailgate of your truck, walk around to the handles, pick the handles up, and roll it right in. So that works really well too. That's normally what I do. If you've got 2 guys, obviously one guy can just pick up each end and you can kind of pick it up and set it in there. But most of us hunt alone, right? Most of the time, it's really, really super easy to pick the wheel up, put it on the tailgate, pick the handles up, and just slide it right on in.
Gotcha. That sounds like it's pretty user-friendly. Trying to look through and see if there's any more questions. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep. It's a tad loud, but we can hear you loud and clear.
Gotcha.
All
okay.
Right. I'm going through to just see if there's any other questions on the feed here as well. I don't see any.
Hey, Zach, when you was talking about the neck strap, it comes standard in the purchase of a RackPacker now. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. So that's included with the purchase of every RackPacker. Again, it's something that we felt like was missing and that everybody needed to have. We did not change the price of the unit at all. We're including at no additional cost.
Gotcha. Very good. Okay.
Your dad is on the feed here as well. He said it keeps the hide nice and clean and the meat clean, and that's so true, right? I mean, after you got a deer in the woods and you start dragging it, you could be dragging it through mud. It can be exposed to all kinds of bacteria as you're dragging it through these mud puddles. By putting it on the RackPacker, it actually does keep everything clean and keeps your hide. If it's a trophy that you really want to keep and you want to get mounted at a taxidermist, keeping it off the ground in this manner is really a nice way to do it.
Yeah, it keeps 2 guys really happy, and that's your butcher and your taxidermist. Again, it does keep all that debris. A lot of times you drag a deer and you've got leaves and dirt and everything else in the body cavity. And then you've got to try to wash it out and get it nice and clean again. Same thing with the hide, like you mentioned. It really can do a number on hide. I have personally had to have several capes replaced in the past, simply for that reason, because of drag marks on the neck or things like that. So been there and done that. This eliminates both of those issues.
Right. All right. I don't see any other questions here. Dusty, you see anything else there we need to address?
I don't. It looks like we covered all the aspects of the RackPacker. Did we get into price and where we can find it?
Yeah, I think we did cover that when we lost in feed, but go ahead and do it again, Zach.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, right now they're $149. That's www.therackpacker.com. And with the coupon code HUNT 2018, HUNT 20118 at checkout, you'll get free shipping. So save $3 on shipping. Again, $149.95.
Very good.
We'll put that code in the comments down below too, so everybody can see it. I think those are all the questions I have. Dusty, you got anything else for Zach?
No, I think that covered everything we need to know about the RackPacker. Zach, we surely appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on a Thursday Night Live here on Facebook, the Big Buck Registry, on the Blue Jeans app, and thanks to everybody that tuned in with us this week.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Thank you guys so much. Be safe.